I have heard from a friend of a friend that this person have had a very bad experience investing in real estate. This person claimed that they bought a property and it was sitting for at least 6 months before it finally got rented. And to be honest, that's not something I want to go through. Why? Because I don't want to have to worry about renting out a property and on top of that having to pay for a mortgage, especially if I'm not producing enough income with everything that's going on with the pandemic. And I was wondering, is that really true? Could that be something that happened to me? Because that's the main reason why I still haven't invested in real estate, because of what happened to the friend of a friend, right? If you're looking for a solution to your friend's problem because you're so afraid that it could happen to you, well, let me tell you that you came to the right episode because we're gonna cover that today. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode at Novarice Invest. If this is your first time turning into this channel, well, let me tell you, this is your channel for real estate education. So today we're gonna cover that dilemma, that fear that all of us have when it comes to investing in real estate. What can I do to not have a property sitting in the market for a long time and have it either sell or rent out in the fastest way possible? And for that, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go straight into the tablet to do the proper analysis that's gonna help you determine how to do it the right way. Now, before we dive into the analysis, I want to clarify a few things. The way we're going to do this is that we're going to focus everything on a geographical area. We're going to focus our analysis on the time of the year, and we're also going to focus our analysis on the type of investment that you're doing for real estate. So here we are, and we're going to talk about the southern states. So we have south of the US, and we're going to talk about the northern states, right? Northern states. And then over here, we're going to talk about the type of investment. Why am I making a distinction between the north and the south? Well, because of climate, right? So if you are in the northern states, we're talking about states like Massachusetts, New York, Illinois, Alaska, you're going to have to deal with the cold. And the cold, the winter, actually plays a big role into this whole analysis or into the equation as to what's the best time of the year to invest. The South, on the other hand, even though we can have all 4 seasons, depending on the state that you are, for the most part, it feels pretty warm, right? It's not the same to have a 50-degree weather versus a 20-degree weather, sometimes even in the single digits, right? So that's definitely something that you want to take into account. So amongst the list of southern states, we have Florida, Texas, Arizona, you name it, right? So the first thing that we're gonna take into consideration in this analysis are going to be properties that you get to flip, properties that are up in the market and ready for sale, right? So just the sales market, and we're talking about flippers in this case. So we'll talk about flippers, and we're going to base on our study based on the time of delivery. So meaning when the property it's up and running and it's ready to be sold for a family to just simply put their keys into the door and just move into the property. So let's start with analysis with the northern states, right? So what's the best time to have a property readily available to put it on the market and list it so that way a new home can come in and just call your property home, right? So the best time of the year in the northern states are between April and September. Why April and September? Well, April because of the tax season, right? So between January and March, all the way up to April 15, you submit your taxes and the expectation is that you will get some money back. Most families use that money back as additional capital towards the closing costs, sometimes even the down payment, or just additional monthly payments that you need to have in your account. Now, after tax season, then it comes the summer, right? If you are a family with no children, that's typically something you don't worry too much about. But if you do have children, typically, what do? You want to wait for your children to end the school year, right? You don't want to pull your child out of the school in the middle of the year and then just have them adapt into a new school in the middle of class season, right? So you want to definitely make sure, wait until they're done with their school year. and that's usually around the summer. So once the kids are out of their school year, that's when the parents, they have more flexibility to move around and then go into another place to call home. So that's with the northern states, right? When does the slowdown typically happen in the northern state? And that's typically around the winter months, right? So starting somewhere around October all the way until March. Why October? October is not that cold, right? You might probably wondering. Well, between the months of October and December, that's when you get the major holidays. So you get Halloween, you get Thanksgiving, you get Christmas, you get New Year's. People's mindset are usually not in buying a new home. They are keeping busy and getting custom candies for the children, getting the turkey for Thanksgiving, getting the gifts for Christmas. So everybody has their mind elsewhere. And between January and March, hey, let's face it, it's cold out there. Nobody wants to chance being out there in the cold, moving furniture, chancing that you can get cold because maybe it's extremely cold outdoors, and then by the time you go into the new place, it could be warm. Or maybe you just don't want to damage your furniture. Maybe halfway through the move, you could possibly get a snowstorm or a surprise rain out of the blue. So that's definitely something you don't want to deal with. And therefore, you will tend to see a slowdown during the winter months. Now, in the South, things remain pretty constant. Let's say there's a constant demand for properties that you want to sell in the market. So there's a constant demand. However, you see peaks, right? So the peaks, you will see them exactly in the months of April and September, and you will also see a decrease in the months of winter and March. There's a demand all year long, but typically it tends to slow down a little bit more around that time. Now, moving along, let's talk about buy and hold, right? For those who have rental portfolios that are long-term, any rental contract that exceeds 1 year or at least 1 year. And this is the type of investment that most of us are familiar with. What's the best time to put a property into the market to be rented out, right? Long term. In terms of renting, that is not that much different from sales. So when you're having a long-term contract, the dynamic is pretty similar to when you're having a property readily available in the market for sale. So you will always see the spikes between April and September, for the same reasons, right? Tax season and then summer, the end of the school year for those families who have children, and you will typically see a slowdown in the months of the winter months, right? In terms of the southern states, it's pretty similar to what you see up here with the sales market. You will see a constant move of families because at this point, the weather tends to not be an issue, but you will always see a spike in the months of April through September and also in the winter months. Now, moving along, we're gonna talk about the next type of investment, and that's short-term rental. But before we move forward, if you're enjoying this episode, do not forget to hit the like button right here so we can help this episode rank and help others like you who are looking for this type of information. Now, short-term rental, what am I referring to with short-term rental? Anything that has to do with Airbnb, HomeAway, anything that it's less than a month, right? And so the dynamic is actually pretty similar in both northern and southern states. Why? Because the demand for short-term rentals are not going to depend on the summer months or the winter months. They're mainly going to depend on weekends. And as you know, we have weekends all year long, right? Weekends, we have holidays, and of course, summer vacations, right? So summer vacations. And you will notice that this is pretty much across the board, like I said, for both type of states. People want to rent an Airbnb for a nice weekend, whether it's a short weekend, Saturday and Sunday, or a nice long holiday weekend, so that people can simply just move away from the routine and enjoy a nice little break from their usual day-to-day activities. Holidays are actually a big thing, regardless of the time of the year. So for example, you will notice up here that I mentioned that typically for sales or long-term rentals, the demand will typically diminish during those months. But for short-term rentals, it's almost like non-existent. Like you wouldn't see the difference. Why? Because you will see people from the south looking to go towards the northern states because maybe they want to go skiing, maybe they want to see snow, and they want to take a trip for the entire month of December with their entire family. So there's always demand up north, and at the same time there's always demand down south because, hey, who doesn't like the beach? Maybe people who are living up in the north, they're tired of the cold and they just want to see a little bit of sunshine. Then at the same time, you will also see seniors migrating all the way from the northern states to the south, because let's face it, the cold can actually really get to you, especially if you have arthritis. Dealing with the winter, that's definitely something that most senior families don't want to deal with. So you're going to see a major migration of people who basically just move back and forth. The summer month, they don't mind staying up north, but then in the winter months, they prefer to be in a much warmer climate. So in terms of short-term rentals, you don't really have to worry so much about the seasonalities between the cold, summer. It's more about where the demand is, and it's more of an active portfolio. So let's say on the weekends, I mean, everybody has weekends. We all have weekends throughout the year. Holidays, there's 4th of July, there's the summer vacations, people going to Europe for 3 months, some people taking a summer internship in New York or taking a summer internship down south. So you will always find demands of that type. It's a little bit more labor intensive, but at the end of the day, that will all depend on what you're looking for, right? So now you know, if you have a property, then first try to understand where exactly are you located. Are you located in the northern states or in the southern states? And what type of strategies do you want to implement? Do you want to just simply flip it and get rid of it and sell it? Or are you planning to just hold it for a long time and having a tenant that it's long term because you just simply don't want to deal with the amount of work that an Airbnb will require? But if you want to do an Airbnb, then now you know seasonalities usually doesn't matter as long as you market your property the right way for the right holidays and the right span of time. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode and you learned a lot. And if you're looking to expand your learning and you want to invest in real estate the right way without making as many mistakes as I make, well, let me tell you, here's a link down below to a free webinar that you can sign up and just participate in. All I ask is that you log on and you pick a time that works best for you, and make sure you have pen and paper ready so you can take notes. I cannot emphasize, there's been a lot of people who've joined the webinar not knowing that they could actually learn something new from it, and they didn't bring anything to write on, and in the end they ended up missing out on that information. So don't let that happen to you. Make sure you have pen and paper ready, and just simply book a time that works best for you so you can take advantage of all the knowledge that I packaged for you in that webinar. And that's pretty much all I have for you today, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye.